So it's been a little while. I took a couple of weeks off, partly because I was gone and in Europe for 10 days, but also partly because I just wasn't feeling it. Feisty Fridays started because I felt motivated to get stuff off my chest. And that's what I did. And then I don't know, I just kind of fell into the doldrums of is this really what I want to do? Is this really what I want to say? Does the regularity matter? And I realized not unless it matters to me. But it felt like it was time. I can't believe it is the end of February. And I can't believe that we are going to be starting the third month of 2026. I feel like everywhere I look, leadership and the world and people are just coming unglued. I strategically determined to talk about regulated leadership in an unregulated world for December or for February, excuse me. And I think originally it came out of my feeling of seeing so much of dysregulation and feeling it in myself that I wanted to kind of express more thoughts. And then I took a 2 week kind of hiatus to think differently about even doing this and the Feisty project in general, which is still at its very kind of nuclear form, just beginning. And I realize, the leaders that we remember are the ones that created a space or held a space that felt different. I'm not always in those rooms with leaders that are doing that well. Oftentimes, I'm in rooms where the people in the rooms that are in charge are using passive aggressive comments or micromanaging from stage or using decision volatility as a wielded tool to emotionally manipulate people. I feel like all of those things equate to leaders that are just unregulated, that don't seem to be able to balance their own self-control, self-regulation, and emotions with the job at hand. And I know that I can be guilty of that too, because things are really difficult. Change and the pace of change is faster than ever before, and it's a lot to be able to accept. But the thing about leadership is if you are going to lead well, you have to lead as a model for what you're hoping to see. You can't, for instance, inspire safety in the room and in conversations if you yourself are consistently broadcasting anxiety. And it's okay to broadcast anxiety as long as that's coupled with this idea that, but we're working together. This is how I'm feeling, but I recognize part of feeling differently is sharing that I'm feeling this. Great leaders will do that. They will shift their unregulated behaviors to a more regulated state because, the pressures of the world are inevitable. But our reaction to the pressures, that's optional. Um, a wise woman in my life recently had to face a massive change that she was ill prepared to handle. And I watched her systematically put up boundaries that she didn't have before. I watched her feel the emotions and then express the emotions professionally and appropriately. And then also, when invited into, oh, but you need to come here and you need to do this and we need you here, she just went, no, not right now, not in my current space, the way I'm feeling. And it's impressive to watch someone have the ability to feel the emotions and feel the dysregulation, but not have that inform their behavior and not put themselves in a position to, I don't know, kind of test their regulation ability, right? Like, I think sometimes we forget that boundaries are there for us to protect us from having to feel the pull or be tested. Those boundaries create sort of a healthy opportunity. And so few of us want to exercise boundaries because we're afraid we're going to miss out or we're afraid that we're going to be seen as not collaborative. But boundaries aren't about lack of collaboration. You can communicate. I really want to be with you. I want to share time and space with you. But right now, based on where I am and how I'm feeling, I can't. That doesn't put a wall up the same way as saying no. Giving that vulnerable context enables others to recognize that, hey, that's a boundary that you're exercising, and there's conscious kind of presence in the decision. It's really important. Um, in my post, my final newsletter of this month that's going to drop tomorrow, I talk about, regulation is not actually about being calm all the time. And a lot of people think that's what it is. It's this calm presence. It's this feeling of peacefulness in your leadership journey. But that's not true. It's actually just a consciousness that you possess at all times. Conscious that you are emotional, conscious that you're feeling things, conscious that what you're feeling and what you want to do might be misaligned. So, in the final reflection for the month of February and this kind of series that I've done, I wanted to ask myself some questions honestly. And one question was, when tensions rise around me, do I create an environment where people feel safe to lean towards me or to use me to protect them or feel good when I am speaking and when there's pressure with the words that I'm choosing? Am I choosing the words to increase clarity? Do I make the moment feel clearer, or do I increase anxiety around it because it's more confusing? And when somebody challenges me or when someone gives me negative or constructive feedback, do I protect myself and defend myself because I'm worried about my ego? Or do I let that feedback wash over me? Do I allow it to inform me but not dysregulate me? These kinds of questions, when we ask them of ourselves as leaders, can really help point us into the future where uncertainty is going to be even more normal than we have experienced it already. With political instability in the world, with, technology just completely accelerating around us at every turn, um, with social media and sort of the people in the public eye being defamed, shamed, and then, of course, us also being more public, being scrutinized. I think there's just so much that's coming at us. There's so much unpredictability and there's so much polarization that the world around us is not going to slow down. And so we as leaders have to be ready to stand up, not to speed up. I don't think. I think it's to stand up, to be prepared and to think about what does it mean to be conscious in these rooms when they're not friendly, when there are bad actors everywhere. I think there's going to be some spaces. I think some of the spaces that are going to be created are going to happen because leaders who we thought were ones we wanted to follow are going to fall from that grace. We're not going to see them quite the same way that we saw them perhaps even fairly recently. And in the midst of that, there's going to be space for many of us to rise up. And it's not to speed up, it's to rise up. And I really want to be a steady leader in times of change. And I want to be someone who is building proactive trust, thinking about what rapport and relationship really means in having authority, and at the same time not exercising that in a manipulative way, but in an influencing way. I want to think about how to ensure that the teams of people that I'm working with and that are around me feel buoyed by the activity and the opportunity to do great things as opposed to burdened by it. And I want to also kind of stand in between others and conflict increasing and look for ways to just de-escalate and not incite or escalate more conflict. Don't want my presence, even though it's feisty, to exist to increase conflict and to make things feel more tense. But this takes an emotional commitment from me as a leader. It takes me to relegate my ego. It also really involves me recognizing my nervous system and what it's feeling, and also how I'm taking care of myself. What's my self-care routine as a leader? How am I expressing a lot of the mixed emotions in a healthy way so that they don't cause dysregulation in the way I show up as a leader? I really, really want to be seen as someone who's practicing that conscious, stable leadership. But I also know that that means I have to grow. And growing is stretching, and growing can be painful and uncomfortable. And that's okay. The future is not going to be easy, but the future is ours to co-create together. And I think what we want to do in an unregulated environment, like it feels like the globe is today, I want to be someone who works to regulate themselves so that I become a trustworthy anchor, both for myself and for the people in my life, but also for others. Because I think that type of leadership and that sort of trustworthiness, that's going to make a huge distinction in the way collective voices move forward with rapid amounts of change. So that's my Feisty Friday thought for today. Check out my final newsletter tomorrow that drops on LinkedIn for February. And then join me again, where I switch things up for March and think differently about some other curious topics, but always with this intention to be present, to own and take ownership over our words, my words, and to think very critically about how to continue to grow and change.